So I said to Gertrude, I was like, where are all the Raiders fans? Like, you see, there's Cowboys fans, and I said, God, I guess they're just heathens, right? They don't go to church. And she was like, yeah. She goes, oh, no, they're at the Catholic Church. It's like, Yep, you're absolutely right about that.
Good joke.
I know.
It's a couple different layers.
I know.
I like that.
You ever get the feeling that everything in America is completely fucked up? You know that feeling that the whole country is like 1 inch away from saying, that's it, forget it. Let's see,
Hey,
we're
twist
on,
around. Now look, here's a house full of bees. You think the honey badger cares? It doesn't give a shit.
Listen, let's get one thing straight.
Price is right.
Guns don't kill people. I do.
Nice. I'm guessing you're not just playing that to make me happy.
I was playing it.
Really?
I was thinking about you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood, and I want you to be in one also.
I am in a good mood.
Nice.
I was in a foul mood earlier. That I haven't heard that for a while. I haven't heard that for a while.
Me neither.
And they're kind of one of my that gotta be one of my favorite bands.
Oh, I meant to look up if that was one of those trifecta.
I think this is the second time we've played Minor Threat on this podcast.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Is it?
I think so.
Really?
I think so.
Damn.
Like a long time ago.
Well, if it is, it would have been that same song probably.
No, I think we played Seeing Red or Screaming at a Wall.
Huh.
Long time ago. I remember like mixing
Okay.
it. Or
It's
something.
possible. Well, yeah.
That I found that back in the day, it must have been 12 or 13. And my parents played soccer. So I used to go to their soccer tournaments out of town. And I would just go to find new places to skate. And back then, anytime you went to a new place to skate, you brought your tapes with you. Mm-hmm. And if someone saw you skating, like another skater, they would run over and like, hey, let me show you all the spots. Like, this is before like the X Games and all that.
Right.
And you'd have your pocket full of tapes, and you inevitably would go back to that guy's house and you record each other's tapes. And I had MDC and The Accused, and he had Minor Threat. And I never heard Minor Threat.
Nice.
At that point, he's like, you ever heard Minor Threat? I was like, no. He's like, oh. He's like, this is the band. And I remember hearing it just like, I listened to that religiously. I mean, just for years. It was like one of those like pivotal like music moments. It was like it was kind of the beginnings of just that straight up. I didn't know what straight edge was.
Right.
I didn't know what like I don't know, back then PC hardcore like lyrics actually kind of had a point and stuff like that. Yeah, I was blown away. Once I discovered straight edge, which is the toughest, like angriest music you'd ever hear, especially from like the New York bands back in the 80s, like Judge and Gorilla Biscuits there's a whole another part is like called Posy-core, which is a little more happy and upbeat. So as it is for this podcast, you'd be the Gorilla Biscuits, I'd be the Judge.
Right.
Just like, I'm going to fucking kill everybody. I'm so angry. If you drink near me, I'm going to knock your friends out.
Right. Bad Brains weren't straight edge.
No.
Were they?
No.
Okay. But they were...
Rastas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they must have smoked the ganja.
There was a big beef back in the day is Bad Brains toured and they stayed with, have you heard of the Big Boys?
Yeah.
Austin band.
Okay.
And I think two of the guys are gay. Bad Brains refused to go into the house. They stayed out in their van because now we're not going to stay in a house with a gay guy.
Right.
It was like a big deal back in the punk rock days.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because they were saying they saying it was against their religion.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't get canceled for that.
No, it wasn't a thing. These days.
Now, Ian MacKay, or Mackay, whoever you say his last name, do you remember the controversy? Who was the guy in Minor Threat? The controversy around him?
There are several.
The accusations of racism?
No. Oh, about guilty of being white?
Yeah.
Oh, did that come back? I mean, it wasn't a thing back then, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So
now
it was kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There were accusations of racism. No, it hasn't come back.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and this kind of is leading into what I wanted to talk about today, like how back then, so Bad Brains didn't get canceled for being against their religion to sleep in the same house with a gay guy. Mm-hmm. And Ian MacKay didn't get canceled for
guilty of being white.
Yeah, complaining about how hard it
written. From Ian MacKay's perspective, I've heard him address this, is he grew up in D.C.
Yeah.
He was like, which the high school he went to was like
70% black.
Yeah. And he was in the minority, and he was talking about the struggles that he had of growing up in them.
Which
it's called context.
I can
nuance
fully relate to, because
you went to school in Maryland, right?
Yeah. The middle school that I went to in 6th grade was majority black. I don't remember the numbers, but we were, as a skinny, underdeveloped white kid, I was definitely in fear for my life. Most of the chicks in that school could beat my ass, like, without even really trying. It was, you had to be on your toes in that school.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Minor Threat.
So, go ahead.
Off the album Minor Threat by the band Minor Threat.
Oh, Trifecta.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's what you meant.
Yeah.
I like that. I had a situation, which I sent you a picture of. I was getting off work on Friday. I'm up in this hill, like kind of pretty far out there. It's I don't know, not rural, but it's outside of town. And I'm coming around the bend, and you come across a situation that's so out of place, like it takes you like a half second to like, what am I looking at right here?
Right.
And that was a full-size Dodge Cummins that had recently been on fire. You could tell. You saw the picture. The thing was just completely like burned through. I'm coming across, and that's an area where it's a fire rebuild. So at first I thought, like, are they still dragging out wreckage from the fires? Those fires were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I look, and it's my buddy Will, who trains at our gym and goes to our church. And I'm like, Will, and he's got this frazzled look on his face, and it's his truck. He's a tree guy. And not like his truck overheated, like it was fully engulfed in flames. Everything's melted.
Yeah.
Like it was a serious fire. And so I jump out. I was like, dude, what's going on? He goes, fire department just left. I was driving this hill. He was towing this trailer. And some kind of glitch. Like the truck was fully capable. There's no equipment on the trailer. He was going to get the equipment. So he wasn't like...
towing something really heavy and working really hard.
Yeah, so there was something went on with the engine. And he literally, it burst into flames. He jumped out and the truck burned. And then, so first comical thing is he's in the middle of the road. We got rocks and chalked the tires, because I don't know. I'm guessing the parking brake's not working on this truck right now. And it's on a pretty steep incline.
You left it in park though, right?
And first kind of comical event is... First, a couple of people drove by. This is a very well-to-do area. Read that as entitled. And people slowing down and giving us dirty looks.
Yeah.
One lady stops.
Do you have to do that here?
Yeah, one lady stopped. You can't park there. I was like, you
Really?
You have to be kidding me. And then Will's on the phone.
I'm having some engine trouble. Do you have any jumper cables by any chance?
Tires look a little low there, like down the hill in a puddle. And he's on the phone trying to get a towing company. He's like, and he's pretty frazzled,
Sure.
And he goes, he's like, I need to. It's a small road, right? And it's kind of in the way. Like it was hard to get around, And he's like, I can't. He's like, they keep giving me like the runaround, and he's kind of like losing his cool. And he's like telling, he's like, I have to get this thing. Like, this is not like an inconvenience. Like, it's like a pile of burned wreckage clogging up a road at this point, and people are getting pissed off. And he's on the phone with the towing company, and then like I walk away and I'm looking at his truck, and I'm making sure that all the tires were chalked and everything. I'm seeing if there's any kind of like anything else that needs to be done. And I look over, and he's doing that look where he has taken the phone down. It's down by his waist, and he's looking at the sky with that look on his face. Like, we just reached this next level of stupidity.
Right.
And I was like, what's going on, dude? And he just looks at me, and he's just like at a loss. He goes, they just asked me if it's still on fire before they can come tow it. And I'm trying not to laugh. Because he's like, can you guys come tow this? Like, well, is it still on fire? And I was like,
yeah, it is.
to laugh because I went like, yeah, it is. Oh, well, we can't do it. Really? That's unfortunate. Because I was calling on the off chance that maybe you guys specialized in towing vehicles that were fully engulfed in flames. But you're saying you don't? Okay, I'll try another company. And I'm trying to turn away from him because he's like, he's unglued at the seams at this point. I'm trying to laugh like, so what'd you say?
Oh my God. Ugh. And that's just like so emblematic of the world that we live in.
I know.
No one can think for themselves. Yep. Everything, you have to check boxes and every little thing that you do. Everything's a big... everything's everything is a computerized answering service.
Yes.
Right? Even the human beings.
Even the human beings, yeah. Just full automatons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't fly. I just can't handle the stupidity.
I know.
It just, there's a Thoreau quote, foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of many young minds.
Yeah.
It's like, subjectively, is what you're saying.
That always gets...
Yeah.
That quote always gets butchered. People always...
I'm sure I just butchered it.
No, well, you got it right, at least in the context, because people always leave out the foolish part. And they just say consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not just consistency. It's a foolish adherence to consistency. Right. No, we did it that way. We have to keep doing it that way. That's what the boss said to do. That's what the checklist says. I have to do it. Like, fucking idiots.
You remember how I came across a couple things. You remember how they told us that the COVID shot stayed in the muscle at the injection site?
When you say
at the very beginning,
the people that were putting magnets on their skin,
not those people.
Okay,
they were kind of saying, I think there's something else going on here, and we came up with the Liberty Tree product. Trying to capitalize on, and never let a good crisis go to waste.
Of course,
waste. Our Liberty Tree Fitness Protein Shake, it doesn't just stay in the muscle milk.
That's right. Remember that? I do remember that. How could I forget?
Well, since then, as we have covered, which people seem to ignore for some reason, we have seen peer-reviewed studies that they found the spike protein ends up in almost every organ of the body. We've also seen clinical studies that it is even passed on to offspring through the oocytes and mice. And as they say, as goes the mouse, so goes the human. People say that. I just said that.
You were a person.
Yes.
So we guess.
Dude, it gets...
Person says that. Well, dude, hold on, though. What about what we heard the other day on the guy that was with Brett Weinstein down in Panama? Michael, he was on Liberty Lockdown.
Right.
Michael something, Mike...
Not
or Chris. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
It's either Michael or Chris.
Right.
Sorry if I'm, beating you to the punch here, but that the fucking vaccine was probably airborne, and everyone has been vaccinated at this point,
right?
To some small degree.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's a whole fucking... I don't know if you're going to go into that.
No, I'm not. I'm actually saving that for kind of down the road.
Okay.
I went further down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And what you're referring to is, what do they call it? Compulsory moral bioenhancement.
That's right. We've talked about before.
Yeah, we know what's best for everybody, and let's just do it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out afterwards.
Right.
Let's just see if it works.
I also branched off because he was talking about shedding.
Yep.
He was talking about the vaccine being airborne. He was also, I think this is part of the same one, was talking about that China, he did talk about this, China didn't give themselves the shots
Yeah.
that we got. We got the genetic
Gene therapy.
Gene therapy here.
They got the Johnson and Johnson type
Yeah, they got something
vaccine.
else.
Because if you got the J&J vaccine, you didn't get mRNA technology.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that much.
Yeah. And dude, how freaked out were you by that? By the way, if you're thinking of going and listening to that, don't do it before you go to bed.
No, it was terrifying.
It
I
made me-
texted you. I was like, dude, are you listening to this?
Yes. I hadn't gotten to the scary parts when you said that. I was like, yeah, it's pretty
the
nuts.
first
but
half's like
yeah.
pretty crazy. And
Yes.
then it just gets like
way
more
crazier.
and more insane. Yeah.
So,
I was legitimately a little terrified after listening to that. I was like,
Yeah.
I was telling Jake, I was like, at some point, because I work by myself all day, which is lovely. But at some point, like you start to get up in your head about some of these things. And as you're listening to that specific podcast, like I had to take breaks. I took my headphones out, like, let's reset here.
Yes.
Just listen to the birds. And I
know what you mean, dude.
Life is good. Your
Yes.
family's good. Because they get into the stuff, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if this was the same podcast, but he was talking about the idea that China not getting the same shot that we did and us getting this genetic therapy, which could prime, by all metrics, at least for the stuff that we cover, it's destroying people's immune systems. Everything from strokes to heart attacks to myocarditis to pericarditis, brain fog, turbo cancer. I mean, just all kinds of, I don't know how they refer to, they have a specific name now for the fatigue, fades.
right.
Everything known as long COVID, which we kind of predicted, although I think it was pretty obvious. I don't want to give ourselves credit for that. But
A lot of good it did.
yes,
We predicted it, but
they had talked about that they have primed people's immune systems for a possible bioterror attack of like releasing of like that was to set everyone up for the bioweapon to come.
Yes.
Which is terrifying to listen to.
or they were just, he also said these billionaires are not really interested in money as much as they are in just impressing their friends.
Power.
And if they can show up to a cocktail party and say, yeah, I controlled the world.
If you're a billionaire,
pretty good
billionaire doesn't worry about another $1 billion. He worries there's another level. It's the power that
He wants his friends to think he's cool.
Yeah.
Which, if you are hanging out with Bill Gates and you think you've done something cool, and he comes in and says, "Oh yeah, well I'm going to be blocking out the sun," like that's hard to
Oh yeah.
trump.
I gave 80% of the world AIDS.
Yeah. He was saying that they just do this shit. They don't. It might not be this nefarious, like super multi-dimensional, layered plan of dominating the world. They could just be throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
So this Omicron virus, basically, or Omicron variant of COVID, the hypothesis is that it is a airborne vaccine. Air
That's
quotes.
what I was referring to. Yeah.
And it's
That was
because
from that
it's
podcast.
so different from the Delta variant and from COVID itself. Like it's as if they're two polar opposite ends of the spectrum of what's possible with mutation.
Right.
Delta and Omicron. So it seems like, and then when Omicron came in, it just wiped out Delta. There was no more Delta.
Yeah. That's the one that originated in South Africa, right? They found like
Yes.
60 cases. And
Yes.
a week later, it was around the entire globe.
He was also mentioning something that you had brought up before. He was alluding to it. He didn't quite say it. He said that the COVID started in a lab. I don't know which lab, but it was
Oh, he
definitely present at the World Military Games. And I was like, Fort Detrick.
Fort Detrick, yes. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have what pretty clearly looks to be like the first cases of COVID from people coming home from the World Military Games. And before that, this would be World Military Games, which were in
Wuhan, China.
Wuhan, China. They talked about the streets, shops, everything had been completely emptied except for the people competing in the games. They came back with these, which exactly mirrored COVID symptoms. Before that, right before the World Military Games at Fort Detrick, Maryland, they had 2 incidents of lab mishaps and people having COVID. COVID-like symptoms. It didn't have that name back then.
Right.
They also were able to trace it back through I can't remember what the TAC Tacoma, Washington airport, which was the main hub for the people flying to China out of the Fort Detrick area. And then they saw like in that area around that airport, or they were able to trace it back to an airport hub.
Okay.
At that point, I can't remember the exact details.
Yeah, they're on opposite ends of the country, so
yeah, but for some reason, a lot of people from the World Military Games flew out of that hub in Spokane, Washington.
that makes sense actually.
SeaTac, that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were able to basically contact trace this new mysterious illness. So,
Interesting.
yes, I thought the same thing. And I was as he brought up Fort Detrick, I'm like, oh, dude, I know this one.
Ooh, your hand raised in the back, calling me.
So at a conference in Stockholm, this would be in January, a professor, this is from a conversation from Taylor Hudak and Professor Arne Burkhardt. Professor Burkhardt delivered a speech in which he provided a personal comment about fertility. If I were a woman in a fertile age, I would not plan a motherhood from a man who had been vaccinated. He wasn't able to finish his sentence. Everyone started applauding so loudly and was like, what was the rest of what he said? And so he goes through, actually like read the study of this, and he talks about how shares that at least wait 2 or 3 cycles of spermatogenesis. Basically, the cells that make sperm is they are finding in patients the spike protein in the testicles of men.
Yeah.
And they talked about one guy was 55, one guy was 46. The guy's 55 died 2 weeks after his second Pfizer injection. The 46-year-old died, I think, a week after his injection. And they went and they dissected the testicles of these people, and they found spike protein. And so I was thinking this was kind of similar to the discussion that we had about booster rage, where we come up with this absurd theory. And we're laughing our ass off just because it's so demented and ridiculous. And 6 months later, the WHO comes out and says, one symptom of the vaccine is psychosis and psychotic-like behavior. And you're like, I'm like, what? And so I don't know if you remember in the early days, we talked about making a Liberty Tree shirt that said, vaccinate these nuts.
Yes.
Well,
are you kidding?
There you go. Once again, reality has beat us to the punchline.
Wow, you're right. Dang it. I guess I have to take that one down.
I'm really running out of ideas here.
What's the point?
Like the most absurd shit I come up with ever. It's like, okay, that turned out to be true.
Vaccinate these nuts. And Bill Gates says, hold my beer.
So Super Bowl's coming up.
I'm aware.
Is that today?
It is.
That is today. Today's Sunday. So by whatever coincidence, my birthday, my wife's birthday, and my wife's family, at least like half of them, all have their birthdays like this week. And I can't keep track of who is who, including my own. Not that I don't know what my birthday is, but I just typically don't know what day it is, or week, or year. Let's be honest.
Secret to youth.
And apparently, I'm obligated to go to watch the Super Bowl. By the way, is it Super Bowl or the Super Bowl?
The
Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I heard an argument. Someone was saying, like, no, it's just pronounced Super Bowl.
Go watch Super Bowl?
That doesn't make sense to
No,
me.
that's ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, maybe if English isn't your first language, then I could give you a pass.
Well, I'd like to spend 15, 20 minutes on this, because what I was listening...
I have heard this argument, though, that is kind of... I don't know what the right way to say it is. The Stanley Cup playoffs is the playoff, not the playoffs, apparently.
Why, is there only one?
The playoff is what happens when all the teams play each other.
Huh.
To find out who wins the Stanley Cup. Instead of playoffs.
That actually kind of makes sense.
I know. It's a weird one.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
I know, dude. It's heavy shit.
What's in your mind, babe? Nothing.
No, I can't talk about it. It's just too...
Still working through it. So apparently it's someone's birthday today. I'm guessing mother-in-law. And what apparently they want for their birthday is for me to watch the Super Bowl.
I love it.
So I guess I'm on the hook to watch it.
Who are you rooting for?
Well, here's the thing, because I had to think back. First off, I'm not entirely sure who's playing, so I'll start with that. But to answer your question, is I had to think back. I'm like, well, what's the last sporting event that I actually sat through? And I'm like, I think it was World Cup 12 years ago, 13, 10.
Like, you mean sat down and watched?
Like, watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Intentionally sat down. I want to watch this.
Right.
And so that's all I have to go on, right? Because I have to, have this gap. I'm like not totally sure. I haven't watched a football game since I was probably in grade school. So I figure I'm going to spice things up, make it a little interesting, something to have my interest. So I put some skin on the game.
Okay, did you?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you do that?
Well, I had to go back to what my last sporting event experience was.
Right.
I got $500 down that Taylor Swift bites someone by halftime.
Nice, dude. Huh?
So, not the best odds, but
No, that's the payoff's got to be
dude, if
huge
this
on
thing
that.
pays off,
Yeah.
guess who's taking the rest
Hell
of the
yeah.
off? Who's got 2 thumbs and a jet ski?
Speaking of betting, by the way, we can come back to that, but I have been looking up the betting odds on the election pretty regularly. Like, I keep going back
Yeah.
and checking it
Is there any crazy shit in there?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Have I talked about this recently?
No.
So you got okay, number 1 and number 2. No shocker there. You got
Right.
Donald Trump plus 117. Joe Biden.
How current is that? Because we're going to talk about what
Today.
happened this week.
This is updated. I just clicked on it, so this is like the current odds today. Joe Biden plus 150. Who do you think number 3 is?
Gavin Newsom. Yep.
Plus $809. So not great odds. It's a 11% probability, but fucking Gavin Newsom is who Vegas thinks has the 3rd best chance of winning the presidency.
Kamala Harris on the list.
Kamala Harris is tied with Nikki Haley.
I would have both Nikki Haley and RFK Jr. above Kamala Harris.
So I look at this, all the way down at the bottom is Vivek Ramaswamy at 1% chance, plus $9,900. I think that is the bet right there. Because if Donald Trump is kicked out, locked in jail, whatever, prevented from running, he's kind of the only other MAGA candidate.
So if you bet, how do those betting odds work?
It took me a long time to figure this out.
Okay.
Because I always see the betting odds. I can never understand it because sometimes it'll say like, negative whatever. If the odds are really, it just never made sense to me. I finally figured it out.
I've never gambled, and I don't.
Me neither.
And my only kind of window into this world was watching the UFC, and like this guy's a negative whatever. I'm like, I thought he was going to win. Like, oh no, he is going to win. That means he's fair. I'm like, okay.
Yes. So I know sports guys that bet. This is like very basic knowledge. So, what the plus means is that if you bet $100, you get 9,900. So you basically win 10 grand if you bet on Vivek Ramaswamy $100.
Why not $100?
Right? It seems like those odds are less than they should be because the chances of Trump becoming president or being allowed to even be on the ballot in some states are low.
Right.
And if he can't,
and he's not on the ballot in some states.
And so if it's negative, what it means is that you have to bet that much in order to win $100. So it's like negative $120. You have to bet $120 in order to win $100.
Gotcha.
I think I'm probably wrong about that.
I just ran down to the store and I just had this kind of deja vu moment. There's a younger dude working. He's got to be like 21, 22. I can use his name because this is a good story. His name's Trace, and he's awesome. That's why I use his name. Like he's so good at his job. Just awesome attitude. Like just.
Is he a tall, skinny guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's great. Like
I like him.
Just a great guy. And he was working last Super Bowl Sunday, and I didn't know it was the Super Bowl, I believe, because I went in there in the morning, and he goes, that's just like what I realized, like, I really like this kid.
Yeah.
He goes,
I remember this.
watching the game tonight? or watching the game today? I was like, I don't even know what sport you're talking about. He goes, yeah, me neither. I just figured that's what I'm supposed to say. That's what everyone's saying. I laughed. Well, it's pretty funny, dude.
Dude, it's got to be so tough to be a checker at a grocery store. I mean, you're basically the toll booth operator of your neighborhood. Just like, hey, how you doing today? Like over and over and over.
And I couldn't do it.
Me neither.
Yeah, he's like wired for it. He's just always just got that huge smile on his face, chatting with everyone. Yeah.
There's this chick that works at Lucky by my house who is super just annoyed all the time, but in a kind of sarcastic, funny way, like constantly rolling her eyes and like with all the people in there, and like just like you'll see her just like staring at someone that's like fumbling for their card or something, and she's just staring at him like, are you fucking kidding me? And you could tell she's probably our age.
Yeah.
And just kind of disappointed in her life a little bit, you know. I've thought many times, because I connect with her a little bit, because I just think she doesn't belong there, but that's just kind of where she is.
Right.
She vibrates at a higher level than this grocery store, but what else is she going to do, right?
Yeah.
She's in it now.
Yeah.
And I've thought many times, like, we got to have her on the podcast. I want to hear the stories. There's got to be some just, like, all-time most, like, annoying and frustrating experiences. I want to hear about their work mares.
Right.
You know, what is a work mare of a
I've
grocery
always
checker?
said that I think it should be, I'm not a fan of new laws, but it should be mandatory that you have to work retail for a year. some kind of
Just to
description.
Give you some humanity.
Yeah, you just realize like this is how you learn not to be an asshole. Like when you go out in public and like you've worked retail before, right?
Yeah,
me too. Like when I was a kid, you know, it's the worst job. It is so like I don't know. I was clearly not wired for it.
No. Especially nowadays where employees are not allowed to stop shoplifters. That's like the one thing you hope happens.
So, dude, have you seen there's a new tech exec? He's a Marxist and he's a millionaire. If someone wants to square that circle for me, please send it my way. He is trying to finance legislation in the Bay Area. Because San Francisco, we're talking about the doom loop, the retail doom loop of San Francisco. I think Walgreens closed all 6 of their stores in San Francisco. Target has closed their stores. CVS has closed their stores.
If you have trouble picturing what a doom loop looks like, just imagine your toilet when you flush and the spirals around and around, and then it finally goes right down into the sewer.
And the feces metaphor would hold up for San Francisco. And he is trying to get legislation off the ground that will make it illegal for a store to close in San Francisco.
Wow.
Trying to force them to stay open.
That should attract a lot of businesses to San Francisco.
Yes.
That'll fill up those vacant commercial buildings.
And so one of the reasons,
I hope that fucking passes.
Well, me too, because the way that I see as like, let's run the experiment, because I lived there for close to 10 years. You've lived there for several years. It's like this, has become this like dystopic terrarium, where we can just watch from the outside. Like, fuck, dude, try all the crazy shit you want to. An app that tracks bum shit. Yeah, okay, profitable business. Yeah,
it's
business is moving out. Shoplifting's not a crime. It's amazing to watch. I'm glad they're running the experiment.
It's like Biodome 3.
Yes. The Biodome.
The poo poo boogaloo.
I found this. This article is hilarious. It just speaks to fact checks, because when you look up, just type in stores closing in California. Stores closing in California due to crime, bill to stop employees they're making it illegal to confront shoplifters. Why shoplifting is now de facto legal in California. Major retailers blame theft for their decision to close locations. That's from the far right, NPR. And one of the reasons why these stores close too is they can't keep employees, because employees are like, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to walk to work, and it's dangerous while I'm at work.
Yeah.
Right? Because people, I mean, it's basically, I'm willingly putting myself in a violent crime spree scene, like almost every day. I found this great fact check. This kind of goes back to the last episode we did. It's this is from the amazing USA Today. No, California Proposition 47 is what changed the threshold for what becomes a misdemeanor.
Right.
It sets it at $950
per incident.
Yeah. The fact check. R rating false. Shoplifting is a misdemeanor in California with punishments of up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. That's their fact check.
I love fact checks.
Yeah. The void in logic we're seeing is, yeah, but you guys don't enforce it. Nothing is prosecuted, which was brought up. That leaked Zoom call with Gavin Newsom. Look it up. Look it up. Said several times. 'Cause that's what I say when I'm
10 toughest.
in an
10 toughest. You can
everyday conversation with my friends.
Yeah. Swear on my mother's grave.
Yeah, he's saying like they were the 10th toughest state on crime. Because what he was referring to is, to go back to the other one, is like the threshold is $950, where in Texas it's $1,500. In Texas, you go to jail for 6 months. In California, you don't even get a citation. Nothing.
No, it's just like that video that we that came up recently. In Oakland, a guy went into the Apple store and stole, I want to say like 20 phones.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Shoved them down his pants, and he goes running out the door, and his pants are filled up. Like the bottom
Get to work, Jake.
of his pants are like billowing out because they're so full of phones.
Right.
And he runs right past a fucking cop car.
Yeah.
Like that. Could you have any less respect for law enforcement than just running right past their car full of stolen merchandise?
You know what is? I'm a nuanced guy, right? You know what's that video? What's stood out to me, because I'm so used to seeing these videos.
Right.
Like, oh, can you believe that? Like, yeah, dude, you know, I've seen hundreds.
No, they don't even make a dent anymore.
All in California. What's more striking is far to allude to just like the cultural decay that lends itself credence to these situations.
Yeah.
Is the people just placidly going about their business and shopping right next to the guy. They just like look over like, yeah, it's just something.
What would you have those people do?
Including the employees.
Because if that happened up here, it wouldn't fly. People would stop them.
Yes.
Right? Even though we're like an hour away.
Right.
But down there, if anyone tries to stop them, including the employees, they are breaking the law.
Right.
And that law will be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So it's
Almost like it was done by design.
exactly these policies that Gavin Newsom is, as much as he's trying to backpedal right now and act like he's tough on crime, these policies are the things that have made it so that people are afraid to step in, and criminals have no fear at all of the law. That guy got arrested for stealing all those phones,
He broke the threshold.
but I guarantee,
Nothing's going to happen.
yeah,
No.
I would put money down that he was released without bail. I mean,
What kind of odds you want?
no bail.
What kind of odds you want on that?
Yeah, if you just give me like, minus 150, I'd probably take that bet.
That's good. Sounds good.
I don't
Better
any
than
idea what that means.
Better than the odds of Taylor Swift biting someone by halftime of the Super Bowl
Slightly.
or at Super Bowl.
The Super Bowls, I believe.
There we go.
I forgot what I was going to say about that. But yeah, the lack of accountability for criminals is directly a result of the policies. And I know Gavin Newsom didn't write the laws, but the policies that are put in place by the Democratic machine in California, and he signed all those fucking laws.
Right.
He didn't veto any of them. And so it's just laughable right now that he's sending highway patrolmen, as our cop buddy calls them, AAA with guns,
Right.
to Oakland to start enforcing the laws. Like, the problem isn't that they don't have cops.
They have cops.
The cops there are capable of enforcing the law. The problem is that
Told not to.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are the highway patrol going to do? Give everyone speeding tickets?
Right.
Like, fuck off.
The dystopic terrarium known as the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Run the experiment. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm glad. I'm like, just everything you want to try out, just try it out. Let's just see what happens.
I love that. Make it illegal for stores to leave.
Yes.
And this law is going to be going into effect in June. Okay, so everyone, you got 4 months to get the fuck out of San Francisco. Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't that just be beautiful to see them actually pass that law and watch every single business leave San Francisco?
Well, I'd say it's happening. It's happening whether that law passes or not. Do you want to guess?
Well, it's easy to be hyperbolic and say that every business is leaving San Francisco. I mean, the reality is that's probably like 10% of businesses or something.
I think it's more than that.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to guess?
This would cause every single business to leave.
Oh yeah. Do you want to guess?
How do you enforce that?
I'm going to phrase this.
Does that mean the person that owns the business can't leave?
Do you want to guess what he said was the real reason for these businesses leaving? They're like, well, it's the crime. It's just violent. They can't keep people employed because it's too dangerous. Now, don't think too hard.
Okay. Climate change.
No, better. What's the other one?
Donald Trump.
No, you're thinking too hard.
Oh, come on.
Racism. Yes.
I thought I just said Donald Trump.
Oh, right. Yeah. But I repeat myself.
Awesome. Well, this kind of stuff that is happening is funny to us because I don't think
It is funny.
it's not scary. That shit with the airborne vaccine is scary.
That's scary. Chinese bioweapons. That's scary.
I was thinking about, he was saying in that interview that
Shedding.
shedding.
Fucking scary.
Yes, he was saying that whatever you do, the worst thing you could do is be locked in a car with someone for an hour right after they got vaccinated. And I thought, how many people did I roll with right after they got vaccinated?
Literally absorbing their sweat. Yeah.
The only, like, the prayer that I hold on to is that the people at our gym are wired like we are, and no one at the gym got vaccinated.
I think that we have a higher than average number of people not vaccinated.
Yeah, but it's not zero.
By the way, it's not vaccinated. It's not a
Yes.
fucking vaccine.
Thank you.
It's a goddamn shot.
You're
It's
right.
Genetic gene. It's experimental gene therapy. So go ahead. What do you got?
So do you remember? So we started Liberty Tree, and thank God we did. Right? Am I right? Cheers, brother. We started Liberty Tree. I remember talking to, it was basically you, me, James, and Jake. Right? And I remember saying, I want to start an organization that's like basically a punk rock organization, but the ideals are not liberal lefty ideas like punk rock tends to be, but more right wing conservative ideas, for lack of a less clunky way of putting it. Right. And I want us to say things that are offensive to some people and not have to worry about it, and make shirts that people who are like-minded but maybe afraid to kind of say it, like, have a place to go to express their thoughts and their feelings. And I kind of think at the time, this was like early COVID.
How'd that go for us?
Not good. Well, it depends on how you measure it. If you measure it in the size of your social circle, not very good. But if you measure it in how cool you think you are, I think we're cooler than those people. So I think we're winning. And honestly, I think that that's like for some reason, I'm always kind of trying to point out the positive things that are out there.
You bring the optimism component to this relationship to the table, yes.
Right. And my optimism is like, not that, hey, everything's just fine. Like, we're all going to be rich and we're all going to get laid. Like, it's not the Rodney Dangerfield version of optimism.
Yeah, you're kind of a right around the bend, light at the end of the tunnel guy. And then I bounce that out with, I don't know, the Deagle statistics.
Yes. Man, that's coming up, huh? 2025. Oh, boy. And we got some catching up to do.
Fuck, I was right.
There are a lot of houses in your neighborhood that have people living in them, so they have some catching up to do to get in line with Deagle. But the thing that I see over and over again is that there is we are winning, and it just seems to me like this idea that we had when we started Liberty Tree of being kind of being the cool kids is coming to fruition, or at least changing.
Right.
And like it is way cooler today to be on our wavelength than it is to be some nerd talking about masking or complaining on Twitter about how many people at the grocery store weren't wearing a mask. That wasn't the case when we first started doing this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. You had told me that you were going to, before we started recording, talk about how things are getting better. And I believe my reaction was, right. I agree with that. I think that's an interesting kind of insight.
So look at this video that I found. This is a time-lapse movie of one of the biggest tides in the world going out and then coming back in. So you're looking at it right now at high tide. You can't really tell what it's doing, but then you see kind of how the water's actually moving. And as it starts to go out, there's almost like a rip current or a flowing current of water that if you were surfing and trying to paddle in, you would be struggling against, right? I mean, look at this, like the ripples in the water going out. And then once it starts going, you can really see the water moving.
I feel like I should be wearing some of those Lululemon sweatpants right now.
You're not?
I'm slowly like growing a ponytail. I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
I know.
Okay, gotcha.
And so in this middle zone where the tide's coming back in now, when it goes from low to high, you see the water moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that point where it's like,
that's actually a rad video, dude.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
When it gets to like any particular spot where it's near the low tide, you can't really tell if it's coming in or going out.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's in that transition phase. And on top of the tide, you also have a lot of waves, motion in the water.
Right.
And is that wave part of the tide coming in, or is that wave, is it going out? It's really hard to tell when you're right in the moment of it. But when you look back or you see it in a time lapse like this, you can really see the movement. And when it's in the middle of the transition,
slack,
you can feel the waves actually, the water moving.
Yeah.
On a really big tide, you can feel it pushing you or pulling on you. And I feel like we're in this moment now where the tide is shifting. And it's hard to tell exactly, but there's indications that it is starting to shift. It was easy to tell when it was going the wrong direction. It was just, everyone was getting canceled all the time.
Right.
Totalitarian governments were thriving.
Schools were shut down. We lost our local businesses.
Yeah.
People telling you were not allowed at their house because you didn't take this experimental gene therapy. People screaming at you from cars that you weren't wearing a mask alone outside. That's some fucking deal. I was jogging. I went for a run, and a carload of people just stopped in the middle of the road and flipped me off and started yelling. I was so down to fight the entire car.
Please get out of the car and talk about this right now.
I really like where you're going with that.
So I don't know. Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, I think there's some meat on that bone. Well, as I say, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I say it's going to get worse before it gets worse. And I think that's what I bring to the table.
Which is true.
But I think it has to get. So we had a discussion yesterday, and it kind of resonated with me. I was thinking about it for quite a while. Is that I think these political elites, these people that really just do not give a fuck about you and your family, they do not give a shit. And so much so that they don't even, as we say, we deserve better psyops. They don't even go to the trouble to lie sometimes. They just go like, this is what we're doing. Like, I think it's intentional. They're kicking sand in your face, like just to make sure this is where we stand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Gavin Newsom going to the French Laundry, for example. His kids being in private school while all the other schools were shut down.
Him cleaning up San Francisco and then saying, it's true because it's true. Oh, okay. So I thought you gave a shit.
Downtown was immaculate for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then that Monday it was just back to normal. And everyone lives there going like, oh, well, a couple things. You just showed us how possible it was.
Right.
And you also showed us that, like, you just don't care to do it, but you'll do it for, the leader
your boss.
of China. Yeah, exactly. So We had the discussion. I don't know how much you remember yesterday, but we talked about. I think these people get so complacent and so comfortable in their roles of power that they throw too many cards on the table, I guess you could say. And normal people, like, we're geeks for this stuff. We pay attention to it. We're going through videos and articles and constantly pointing stuff out. But your average person's like, I don't know, man. I take in like a little bit of news here and there, and I watch. I spend my time watching football, and I go on Facebook, or just kind of your NPC-ish type of person. Those people are waking up, and
Yes.
that's what we need.
Exactly.
And so I agree with what you're saying.
Exactly.
And it's very nice.
And it's like the analogy that I think of is the movie that you're watching, and actually the example that I was telling you, I think yesterday, was the Last Starfighter.
Oh yes,
Right. It's like this movie when we were kids was awesome, and then you go back to watch it when you're an adult, and you're just kind of like, I can't really buy that.
Right.
The acting is so bad, the premises of it are so bad that you're just like listen to that sound effect.
The sound effects are on point.
Alex Rogan lives in a small trailer park in the California
God, I
mountains.
love this movie when I was a kid.
Me too.
He has a dream to go to college.
You guys think I'm gonna hang out here, watch you shine your pickup? Forget it, man. I'm doing something with my life.
Start a career.
Great acting.
It's not like you couldn't have made this movie well. It's basically Tron, right? You could do this movie, which is Tron's a good movie, but this is just so bad. You're sitting there watching it as an adult, and you're just like, I can't. Like every little premise in it, that stupid car.
Yeah.
The way that the act, the things that they propose, like they're going 300 miles an hour on a California road in the mountains, and it's just like your brain. Eventually, as much as you want to love this movie because you loved it when you were a kid, your brain just won't let you do it.
Yeah.
And you go, you know what? Fuck, I can't watch this.
Right.
It's just too ridiculous. You get snapped out of it. And I think that is starting to happen to people.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's been happening for a long time, but it's now you're starting to see a shift. It used to be very easy to cancel someone so that you couldn't hear their idea of their observations on the truth. Like Tucker Carlson, for example, the biggest name in legacy media. He had the biggest show on any network. I mean, it was bigger than all the networks. It was bigger than some networks by themselves, I think.
Yeah.
And you would think that a company that was interested in making money would be happy to have that on their network.
Right.
And they cancel him.
As in to say, like, he gets this backlash, he tries to get canceled, deplatformed, or whatever, and the company goes, well, the fact is that he brings in, quadruple the amount than all the other hosts combined.
Yeah.
I don't really care what he says.
Right.
But they fire him. And I think this alludes back to the first point you made, like, at some point, they're not worried about money. They're worried about control. They're worried about power. They're worried about narrative. They are worried about an agenda.
It doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Yeah.
And people see that. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
Like, why would you fire the guy that makes the most money? Well, I guess you just didn't like what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was he saying? Well, it gives people kind of like a reason to go look and listen, because is what he was saying was so bad, it must have been really bad in order for him to be canceled. So it must have been like the most hate-filled, awful, racist, bigoted, what are the worst things you can be in the world today? Like a racist. So it must have had a ton of that. Mm-hmm. And people watch it and they're like, didn't really see much of that. So what was the real reason? And it makes people kind of wake up to the bad acting that's going on.
Yeah.
And so with a great show like his, who he exposed a lot of interesting questions, at least, even if he didn't necessarily always get the answer right. And just for the record, I'm not like a Tucker Carlson sycophant. I think he's bad on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He's basically a socialist when it comes to economics. Yeah. I wish he could have people on his show that could help him see.
Well, that's kind of
missing.
That's kind of the point, though. That's
yes,
not to. It's afford yourself the intellectual capacity for you to listen to a conversation or point of view and don't have to immediately compartmentalize everything else that person represents or what they believe. Take the face value of that conversation or that idea and use it as a springboard to get somewhere in your head or to challenge what you already think you believe. People who have turned politics into a religion, it's the most destructive, disturbing thing that I've ever witnessed. You can't even enjoy a comedian. I've had someone say to me, I'm like, oh, I heard this thing on Adam Carolla. Like, oh, dude, I can't listen to that. It's just politics. I'm all, well, the joke goes like this, and I thought it was humorous. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your day. It's like it's this blind adherence to. We recently had a friend that said they accused Joe Rogan of being something.
Of being just ultra right wing.
Ultra right wing. He's a Bernie supporter, by the way.
Right.
Or
he was.
Yeah.
I think he's probably coming around a little bit on that.
Yeah, I just this.
Well, and the interesting part of that story is that person then, our friend responded with, "Well, he's never had a right wing politician on his show."
Yeah,
and the person he was talking to said, "I don't know about that." He said, "Well, I listened to all of his shows." Our friend is a really big fan of Joe Rogan, and I've never heard him have a right wing supporter on there. And the person he's arguing with says, "Well, I don't know about that. I'd have to do some research before I could comment on that." I was like, you think so?
Well, the problem is you already commented on it, and that's why we're here now.
God forbid you know what you were talking about.
I don't understand of this like weird preemptive filing system that people have in their heads of like, I already know what that person's about. I'm not going to dude, I read Huffington Post in the morning. I listen to NPR on my way to work. I want to hear what everyone's saying. I disagree with almost everything. Huffington Post is like, it's comedy at this point.
Yeah.
But I still read. It's like, I want to hear what the other perspective is, right? I don't want to only hear one perspective all the time. That's like, I want it. It's like, I need to read. I need to be able to, if I'm going to have an opinion on something, it's like, I need to be able to read that article and say, this is why I think that article's wrong.
Every once in a while, there could be a legitimate article on Huffington Post, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not to say that every single thing that, that's the exact opposite or the reciprocal of what we're talking about of this religious adherence to one side or the other. Oh, it's on Huffington Post. It's got to be garbage.
Right.
It's like, it's garbage if it's garbage. The fact that it's on Huffington Post is just the platform that
it just happens to mostly be garbage. As it turns
it does. That's a fact also. But it doesn't mean that simply because that's where it is, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that it's funny because it's easy to fall into that trap. There's so little media that is aligns with the way that we think. I mean, it's basically, there's very, very little. Exactly with how we think. I'm talking about like an anti-state, and the Fed kind of.
We're going to talk about this later because you're right, kind of. It's out there. You have to find it, and it is getting bigger.
Well, okay, so
it is becoming its own industrial complex.
Right. That's what I was just about to go to, because so you have Joe Rogan, who is, as we just were talking about, like, what's most admirable about Joe Rogan's podcast is his willingness to try on different ideas. He'll have a socialist like Bernie Sanders on, and he'll say, yeah, totally. Yes, absolutely. 100%. 100% agree with that. 100%. It's like he's trying on a hat to see if it fits or an ensemble. Does this work for me? And then he has someone else on that doesn't think that way. And he's like, yes, absolutely. Like Dave Smith, like totally. It was just, and that in and of itself is a threat, right? Because he could say anything. He could have any guest on. He had Milo Yiannopoulos on. He has, whacked out people on like that, not that I think that Alex Jones is a total whack job. He's crazy by all means. Yes, he's crazy, but he'll have him on and entertain his crazy ideas, or Eddie Bravo,
which turned out to be true. Like
exactly,
oddly enough.
And so what's happening, what I see in this, going back to the title shift thing, is that there is starting to be more of this kind of media. And lately, I like to listen to Dave Rubin's podcast because he covers a lot of news really quickly. But lately, more and more, I'm just like, God damn, this guy is so off base on so many things.
Yeah.
And I used to really like it. And I wonder if the reason I liked his show was more because it was just not saying what the legacy media was, not saying what CNN was telling me. And I just kind of latched onto that. But I listen to it now and I'm just like, man, this guy is off base on a lot of things.
I think that has a lot to do. I don't know. It's almost like I'm gonna draw a clunky metaphor to like metal. Of like, I was always into metal, death metal, and I was into like Motley Crue when I was a kid, which is just they're a dog shit band. I go back and listen to it. You know, they're kind of the last Starfighter of metal bands. And but at that time, that's all I knew. Like this is like heavy. This is like heavy music, you know. Now it's just like it's you know, pop shit rock basically, shit metal. And so when we listen to some of the I don't know, old like radio stuff, Armstrong and Getty show, for example, maybe even Dave Rubin, it wasn't so prominent, this narrative, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like it's kind of like your introduction to these other ideas.
Yes.
And then when you know, now you go and you listen to Last American Vagabond or Dave Smith or Pete Quinones or Charlie Robinson is one that just macroaggressions just blew my mind open, like the stuff that he gets into. And so you listen to that and then you go back and listen to Dave Rubin and you're just like, it's pretty just kind of mainstream, like so. Nothing really interesting here going on. Like not really straying from too much from an acceptable. Like you're just a slightly conservative kind of mainstream guy at this point. Yeah,
same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of that, right? But when it's so, you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear their opinions. You're not going to hear Matt Walsh, for example, on Fox News.
right.
That's just too far. Him questioning what is a woman is just way too far outside of the allowable opinion, right? So Fox News, who fired Tucker Carlson, is not going to have someone that's just as controversial on, right? It drives me crazy when people, you know, accuse me of being a Fox News guy or, you know, call Fox News like this. You're just placating to the Fox News base. It's like the Fox News base.
I was like, I couldn't even. Number one, I don't know how my TV works. So even if I wanted to watch Fox News, I wouldn't know how anyway. I've never been to the Fox News website. I don't. That's so ridiculous. It also, you kind of glossed over something that I think touched on something that we were talking about earlier, is a guy, they fire Tucker Carlson. You hear this with Trump all the time. It's like, dude, you guys can assassinate him. I was like, it's not going to go away though. It's not him. It's he is indicative.
It's his middle finger
going on here. Same thing with Tucker Carlson. And you have like bootlicking fucking Jeffrey Epstein island going dickbag fucking Jimmy Kimmel poking fun at
allegedly
poking fun at Tucker Carlson and his show, going like, oh yeah, he's like I guess he's going over to Russia to look for a job. His interview got 90 million views on Twitter alone. Like, you know how much money that guy is worth? You know what his audience is?
Yeah.
And what your audience is? Like, and you're firing shots about his employment status. That dude is doing whatever he wants. He's got no chains. He's got no constraints. I don't watch Tucker Carlson. I didn't even watch the interview. I watched the unedited video, which was pretty interesting.
The unedited? What is that?
With Putin.
Unedited?
Yeah.
You mean, you didn't watch the
Well, they took some stuff out.
You watched the
About Taylor Swift.
She sucks.
Who do you think will win the 2024 election in the United States?
Everyone knows President Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. And as soon as he takes back the White House, he's probably gonna whoop some ass.
What do you think about Bud Light?
Gay. Piss. Gay piss.
Who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
That's easy. Hillary did it. We don't call her Hillary Clinton for no reason.
Provocative.
Wow, I didn't, because I listened to the whole interview. Or I didn't catch those.
That he spoke English either?
Well, that was obviously a translator, right? Yes. Okay, let's talk about the Putin interview.
Did you know that after that interview, we'll get into this later, the EU has made a call for him to be put on a no-fly list.
I think it was that one guy in the EU is proposing that they sanction Tucker Carlson. Yeah. Yes, I did know that. That sounds to me like it was one guy. I don't know. Not cool, but not like a huge deal, I don't think.
It is indicative of just the coordinated freak out.
Well, the amount of journalists, air quotes, who applauded that. Yes, he should be. I mean, it's not hard to find clips of guys like Chris Matthews, or is that his name?
No,
Chris Wallace saying things similar to that. Yes, he should be sanctioned. This is just unacceptable that he was
from CNN. CNN Plus still around?
I don't even remember that. So this interview was like one of the biggest things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't have been, but it was because of the freak out of people that are trying to maintain this narrative. Basically, it's the Ukraine war narrative.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that are trying to maintain that, the enemy to any sort of propaganda and mainstream narrative is information.
Yeah.
And I watched the whole thing. I have no idea if Putin was telling the truth on everything. I think Tucker Carlson probably has his questions about whether or not he was telling the truth on some things. I think that's not really the point. The point is someone should at least, let's just hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Get him to talk. He talked for 2 hours. Get him to talk, and then let's go see if what he said was true or not. The more he talks, the more damage it could do if he's not telling the truth, because you're exposing what he says to daylight.
Yeah, as we often say, that when the reaction to something, particularly a point of view or a conversation, or in this case an interview, when the reaction to it is a collective freak out that person needs to be punished, they need to be deplatformed, the internet shouldn't be heard by anyone. As we always say, it's like, if that's the reaction, you're probably pretty close to being over the target.
Exactly.
Not to saying that what Putin said was correct, but my reaction to this is I thought it was a pretty good example. There's been a lot of work done lately through a lot of the independent journalism that we do, and they make this kind of point that the left have become the new neocons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, what do we know about the neocons? I mean, we could take our foreign military support for foreign military intervention alone. Yes, the left are absolutely neocons.
Yeah, they're all in on it.
And then you add in, the calls for censorship and deplatforming and the control, forced behavior modification. I was like, you guys have become the religious right, but just without church. Like, your religion is, I don't know, wokeism or
the state.
Like that.
Yeah.
And so, do you remember in the Iraq invasion? I was thinking about this today because I was thinking about this Putin interview and how the collective freak out that Tucker needs to be on a no-fly list, and how dare he, and he's giving this guy a platform. Do you remember being on the left, as you were back then, having serious issues with our illegal invasion of Iraq?
Yeah.
Do you remember what Saddam Hussein was saying right before they invaded him?
Yeah, he was saying, I complied with everything that you've asked me to comply with.
And he goes, I'm calling for a debate between me and George Bush for the entire world to watch before he invades us.
Yeah.
We can all hear what we each have to say, and then you guys can decide.
God, no, we cannot allow that.
And what did the
the
neocon said? Like, no, we will absolutely not give this guy a voice.
No, he's just going to spread lies and misinformation, and yeah, we can't have that. Well, guess what? Yep. He didn't have any of the shit that we said that he had. So
yep, they weren't slightly north, south, east, and west at Tikrit, as it turns out.
So what is awesome about this interview with Putin is that, when Dan Rather interviewed Saddam Hussein, that's kind of, I think that's what you're referring to.
Correct.
And Barbara Walters interviewed Fidel Castro.
Mm-hmm.
These things happen through a mainstream media filter,
right,
and lens, right?
It's all through. It's all filtered through within the prism of the acceptable narrative. At the end of the day, yes.
Now, this interview is coming out completely independent. Sure, it's filtered through the questions that Tucker Carlson asked, and you can criticize him for not asking tougher questions, although I think he did a pretty good job, in my opinion.
It's gay.
It wasn't all
gay piss.
It wasn't all softballs. But people are in insane numbers. Like a third of the country has watched this interview.
Yeah.
And they want to go and just get the information. And we should trust them to do with that information what they will. And if there's better questions that should be asked of Putin, someone else should go interview him also.
Right.
If Tucker Carlson did a shitty job, then send fucking Chris Wallace over there to interview him. You know, do the questions that you think were...
Send old fucking Jeffrey Toobin over there and go rub one out in front of Putin on camera.
All right, so here is
Chris. His last name have to be Toobin.
I know, right?
It's a
But
self-fulfilling
apparently, that's
prophecy.
not why Tucker went to Moscow. During the Cold War, gullible Westerners who spread Soviet propaganda were dismissed as useful idiots. But calling Tucker that is unfair to useful idiots. Now, he's made a cynical decision to chase MAGA's affection for dictators. And what better way to cash in than Putin's Kremlin?
Okay.
How many people watched that?
That's it, right, 17. Okay, now, so remember that phrase, the useful idiots thing. This apparently is like...
Is that the new thing?
The new thing that they're calling Tucker Carlson? Okay, we are now entering the...
I want to be a COVIDiot. Oh, it's the thing.
It's good.
It's the thing.
We're about to enter into the irony-proof zone.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you are ready, son. You're going to love this. This is Hillary Clinton being interviewed on MSNBC.
Tucker Carlson is in Moscow right now interviewing Vladimir Putin. Right. The first American, I'll say journalist.
Why? I'll say journalist. Why? Why? Oh, but you're a journalist, right? Before we go too far into this, just why is Hillary Clinton's opinion fucking matter? What does she have to do with anything?
Coming up after the break, old lady with a bunch of cats who lives in upstate New York will have her opinion.
The irony in this interview is just fucking delicious.
The first American, I'll say journalist, to interview Putin since the war in Ukraine began. What does that tell you about Tucker Carlson and right-wing media and also Vladimir Putin?
Well, it shows me what I think we've all known. He's what's called a useful idiot. I mean, if you actually read translations of what's being said on Russian media, they make fun of him. I mean, he's like a puppy dog. You know, he somehow is, after having been fired from so many outlets in the United States, I would not be surprised if he emerges with a contract with a Russian outlet, because he is a useful idiot. He says things that are not true. He parrots Vladimir Putin's pack of lies about Ukraine. So I don't see why Putin wouldn't give him an interview, because through him he can, continue to lie about what his, objectives are in Ukraine and what he expects to see happen. It's really quite sad that not just somebody like Tucker Carlson, who has, as I said, been fired so many times because he seems unable to correlate his reporting with the truth, but also because it's a sign that there are people in this country right now who are like a fifth column for Vladimir Putin. And why? I don't know. I mean, why are certain Republicans throwing their lot in? Why are, other Americans basically believing Putin? Why did Trump believe Putin more than our 11 intelligence agencies?
She just can't let it go.
Yeah. Why did Trump not believe Putin more than our 11 intelligence agencies? Are you referring to the 11 intelligence agencies who accused him of being a Russian asset?
Spy? Surely not referring to the Steele dossier, are you? Turned out to be not so true.
intelligence agencies.
I don't know. Do you have a working theory?
I do have a working theory. But it's more than just the political partisan advantage. There is a yearning for leaders who can kill and imprison their opponents, destroy the press.
What country is she talking
Irony
about?
alert. Oops. Oh, fuck. It would be funny to put this clip to a laugh track.
Done and done.
Lead a life that is one of impunity, unbound by any laws. There's a yearning among certain people in our country for that kind of leadership, and I find that absolutely gobsmacking terrifying.
Who is she talking about? Is she really not talking about herself right there? Come on. I mean, sometimes it's like the telltale heart with Edgar Allan Poe. Like,
We'll cut to Julian Assange for his thoughts.
the truth just has to force itself out. God,
That's hilarious.
isn't it? Audacity. Dude. So I'm gonna come back to the title thing. I'm gonna wrap this, bring it around full circle. But before I do, speaking of movies that suck, I came up with this. I think I have a theory that you're gonna like.
Okay.
President Zelensky
Mm-hmm.
of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Is it Ukraine or the Ukraine?
It's the Ukraines. I think he might have all this time. Okay, before I tell you the theory.
Okay.
This is the scenario, okay? The president of Ukraine was a billionaire,
Yes.
right? Poroshenko.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was the guy that was installed after the coup
By Victoria Nuland.
that we
The Maidan
backed,
Revolution.
right? Okay, thank you.
2014.
Yes. This guy did his job.
What up?
Took over-
Azov Battalion. Thank you, Nazis. Really helped us out on that one.
This guy takes over Ukraine, billionaire, right? Doesn't really want to spend his time being president of Ukraine. You know, president of the United States, sure, but Ukraine, come on, he's got better things to do.
Yeah.
So they need someone else to step in.
Mm-hmm.
Who do they get?
Zelensky.
Vladimir Zelensky,
Right.
a comedian, actor. You know, not a billionaire, right? And not like an incredibly talented. Have you watched any of his?
Not a billionaire then, I should add.
Right. Maybe not a billionaire today.
Oh, he absolutely is a billionaire.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
Definitely millionaire, right? He definitely made money out of this deal, right? But would you agree that Zelensky?
If that were to be true, according to all information, he would have to be placed in charge of the fourth most corrupt country in the entire world.
He might be.
Wait, what country is this? Are we talking about?
Yeah, the fourth. Yeah.
God dang it. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe he's just a skilled investor.
Old Nancy Pelosi School of Investing.
So, okay,
Who could be at the door at this hour?
maybe Vladimir Zelensky is actually. Well, first of all, would you admit that or agree that he was appointed to this position?
Yes.
I mean, he ran in an election against Poroshenko, who.
Yeah, I didn't see you use your finger quotes. Election.
Right. Won by 75%, which is like never happens anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, he ran against a guy who is in kind of the same party, for lack of a better.
Those are fucking North Korea numbers there.
Exactly. Those are Putin numbers. Okay. What I'm thinking is that Zelensky is probably a patriot. He probably loves Ukraine. And he may have made a deal with the devil. Because I think he was basically installed as president I think that I
agree.
This theory is based on the assumption that Zelensky is in there doing the dealings of whoever is controlling Ukraine. And what we know about Ukraine...
And that's different from our country. How?
Well, what we know about Ukraine is that there's a lot of ties to our country.
Yes.
Right? There's all sorts of weird shit there with the chemical weapons, biological weapons labs, the weird investing strategies, Hunter Biden
FTX.
being on all of the
Prisma.
Yes.
Right?
So if our country wants to keep Ukraine from falling into the hands of the Russians, they need someone running it that'll play ball. The billionaire Poroshenko he understands what's going on. He's like, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Pick someone that's willing to do it. So you get this guy.
I'm off to Epstein Island. You guys do whatever you want.
You get this guy who's actually kind of a patriot. He's a comedian. He's like, fuck it, I'll do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right? And then, okay, you can do it. You're going to become rich. You're going to become famous. But you have to play ball. If you don't, there's going to be consequences, right? And so he's like, all right, I'll do it. Well, what that ends up meaning is that he has to become president of a country that's going to war with one of the most well-armed and strongest militaries in the world.
Nuclear superpower, yeah.
Yeah. And he starts realizing through this that, what the fuck, this is not good for the country that I love. So many people are dying. I'm having to shut down churches. I'm having to shut down political parties. All of the young people are being sent off to war, and they're dying at the hands of the Russians, to the point where we're now drafting people in their 40s and 50s to go fight. I think he started looking for a way out. And he knows that the only way out, he can't just pull out, right? What came up in that interview with Tucker Carlson is Putin said, like, look, Zelensky's the head of the country. If he wants to make a deal with me, a ceasefire, he can do it. But Boris Johnson stepped in when they had that deal worked out and said, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? I thought Zelensky was the president. What does Boris Johnson have to do with anything? And that's a pretty good indication that Zelensky is not allowed to do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
And if he does, he's probably going to end up taking a ride through Dallas in a fucking open air convertible limousine.
Which is kind of interesting because we got into, I think they believe in this interview, he asked him about the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yes.
He's like, who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? This guy laughed.
He's like, you did.
You did. He's like, not you, but.
Yeah.
And that was done, if you read the Seymour Hersh article, he lays it out that the logistics of how we pulled that off with British MI6 forces.
Yeah.
Which would be
the only
why Boris Johnson has all of a sudden a vested interest in this. Yeah.
There was only like a couple of agencies that had the capability of even pulling that off.
The Nord Stream pipeline just drives me insane because when it happened, you go like, this is like, I only have what I have. I can't prove to you anything, but isn't it kind of obvious like who would have done this? Everyone goes like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And then 6 months later, I'm like, okay, now is it obvious? Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to that.
Okay, so
it drives me crazy.
So if you're Zelensky, what can you do to get out of this thing, to save your country? He's a patriot. How do you save Ukraine if you're Zelensky? The only opportunity you have to end this war is to turn Americans against the war. So if that's what you're trying to do, what might you do?
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight. Because it's NATO that we're talking about.
Dude,
they will be doing
well done.
Okay.
I like we are going.
Right?
Critics of American.
All right. Like, who saw that and wasn't like, you can fuck right off with sending my son or daughter to fight in Ukraine. Fuck you. Then what else does he do?
Not build roads for today. Don't do it. Spend all your money to the weapon, to the...
Keep in mind, this guy is a professional actor.
Right.
Drones, to the society, to the pensions, and etc. And don't cry, because you're leaders, and that's it.
Could you think of a more offensive way to deliver that?
Dude, Well
Right?
done, man. I'm impressed.
Am I onto something
really
or not?
Impressed.
So,
yes.
could you possibly like sweeten that up a little bit? Like, no, don't cry. You pay out pensions. You don't build roads, and it's like he's in his mind thinking, I got to get the fuck out of this gig. This sucks. Like, I'm gonna get killed if I just stop the war.
Yeah.
I need to turn the Americans against this war. All right, and then as the coup de grace.
There's our Nazi.
The standing ovation in Canadian Parliament for the Nazi who fought the Russians during World War II.
Yeah.
Like legit Nazi. Like SS fucking Nazi.
I also remember all volunteer army. He wasn't not drafted.
Yeah.
Willingly joined.
Oh, yeah.
Nazi party.
This this guy, for a Jewish head of state to be applauding a Nazi like this, come on. There's got to be something there.
Nazi, you drink milk and are on time for work. An actual member of the Nazi party that rounded up Jews during World War II.
Murder them, yes. Right? And then you got, in that interview with Tucker Carlson, Putin brings this up.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you guys talking about?
What the fuck you guys doing over there?
Yeah. Right? I think that there's something to this. I think that Zelensky is doing everything he can to make this war as unpopular as possible because he doesn't want it. Why would he? It's destroying Ukraine.
And they're losing the war, right?
And he's in charge of the country while it's being lost to Russia. But the people that are actually in charge do want this war, which is why that Poroshenko guy was like, I am out. I don't, want anything to do with this. You win by fucking 75%, please. Like,
you guys just pick the guy that plays piano with his penis on YouTube. Like, I'm getting on my yacht, I'm hanging out somewhere else. Dude, I really like what you've done.
Huh?
That's good.
This is just kind of an example of, like, I don't know. Maybe I notice it just because we're so in touch with it, but people are going to notice this stuff also. It's like a surfer can tell what the tide's doing, but everyone can see it. Once it's in, and when it's out, it's out, right? You might not notice the actual change, but this change is happening.
The thing I like about it, too, that it kind of connected some dots in my head because when he made that speech about do not build the roads, do not build the schools and all this thing, I remember going like, dude, I don't know if something's getting lost in translation, but like, dude, you sure?
He was saying it in English.
You sure? You surely have someone in charge of like messaging. And, like what American is hearing that going like, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Left and right, they're like, dude, fuck off.
Yes.
Like, holy shit. We're in a recession. We have rampant inflation. I can barely make my fucking mortgage. My kid's school is falling apart. And we've already given this guy, $150 billion at that point. So I'm like, I think we're up to $200 billion. And here he is kind of like lecturing us, that we need your money.
And we're going to send your sons and daughters to die in this war.
I'm like, dude, how tone deaf is this?
Right. Deliberately.
I might have fallen for it, dude.
Man.
I'm a little ashamed. Usually pick up on this shit.
All right. So I was saying earlier that when we started Liberty Tree, like we wanted to be the cool kids. And I think that is finally starting to happen. So do you remember when, bullying, well, it's like any issue, actually. It's around 2016, and probably no coincidence, around the time that Trump came on the scene, it became really cool to be woke.
Yeah. It became like almost like an Olympic sport. Everyone was trying to out woke the other person, which is always fascinating about cultural Marxism. Is the way that you do that is by destroying someone who is also woke, quote unquote.
Right, but you're woker.
And speaking of the dystopic terrarium, us on the outside just watched it with like kind of our arms folded, like, yeah, this is really interesting. These people are destroying each other's lives.
These cockroaches are really tearing each other apart. You remember when Mumford & Sons? They were like the biggest band in the world in 2016.
Fired because he said online he was reading a book that was written by a conservative author or something like that.
Yeah, a gay Asian conservative author named Andy No.
They kicked him out of the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For reading a goddamn book.
As if that band wasn't fucking faggy enough.
Didn't you? Exactly. Okay. So they were
I had friends, hipsters. They were like, before they got big,
yeah,
this band's amazing. I'm like, dude, this is shit music.
Right.
This is fucking terrible.
Right.
Like, you have bad taste in music. I'm sorry.
At the time, though, they were the biggest band in the world. And now they're nowhere.
Yep.
Right? That is not cool. That kind of music is not cool. Them kicking that guy out of the band is not cool. They have, like, they've fallen into this waste bin of wokeism that the world is rejecting.
Mumford & Sons are like the people I know that actually texted me that says I was not allowed at their house because I wasn't vaccinated. And then I run into them 2 years later, like, hey, what's up? Mumford & Sons is doing that with a guy they kicked out. Like, hey, Rob, you want a jam?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, no, fuck off.
I bet you anything that guy has had people call him up and say, hey, let's do something together.
Nah, dude, I'm fucking, I'm the CFO of My Pillow.
Right.
I'm booked solid.
All right, I'm going to play you 2 clips. You tell me which one's cooler. Hold on. No, I'm not going to start with that one.
Bullying is horrific.
Bullying is
for
horrific.
those people who have to live through it. And I would add another piece. I don't think it's very good for the people who witness it. So I think that bullying touches the lives not only of victims and bullies, but of all those in the school setting, the community setting, where they see this happen. Imagine if you were living in a place, and imagine if in your work environment, every day when you went to work, you were not sure whether it was you or your colleague who was going to be brutally teased, who was...
She just described my day at work.
Her or this guy.
We've eliminated bullies from schools, right? And it's worse now. School shootings have gone up.
I disagree, but...
Since we've removed bullies. And you know what that tells me? Bullies never did school shootings. It's been nerds the whole time, dude. You know how I know nerds are doing school shootings? Who fucking writes a manifesto, dude? Oh, I'm mad about it. Let me write it in my notebook. What a bitch, dude. Pick up a ball and throw it at a kid smaller than you. That's what you're supposed to do. If we had bullies in the schools, a nerd would start writing a manifesto, a bully would swat the pen out of his hand, and he'd be like, that's gay, and there'd be no school shooting. And plus, you can't shoot up a school if you've been stuffed in a locker.
So you can't tell that joke 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And look at what happened with Shane Gillis now being on Saturday Night Live. He's going to be hosting Saturday Night Live.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because he got kicked off of Saturday Night Live 5 years ago.
Oh, really?
Or maybe 3.
Oh, he was the guy that got kicked off?
Yeah.
Because he made some joke about Asians or something gay or something like that, right?
Okay. Hold on. Give me a second to find this.
No, he was the guy that kicked... He's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Dude, his shit is fucking outstanding. Okay, I found it good. So this is what happened with Shane. This is awesome because TMZ basically released this stuff about Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
And all these like racial slurs and this like hot mic moments, that the things that he said that were just really questionable ethics, whatever fucking corporate stupid language that they use. And this kind of surfaced, and then he got kicked off of Saturday Night Live for that.
Yeah.
Then 3 years later, his career has fucking exploded. He's become one of the best stand-up comics.
It's like the Tucker thing is like, I don't need you guys. It's like, I'm not going to slum it at Saturday Night Live.
Exactly. So he just ditched the mainstream media altogether. I don't need Saturday Night Live. I mean, Saturday Night Live is not funny. It's just a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
But it's a gatekeeper to some shitty property that you don't want to go to anyways.
Right.
It hasn't been funny in 30 years, I'm going to say, right? But it's a thing. It's a gate that you're supposed to go through. Well, now he's going to be hosting Saturday Night Live, I think next week. I thought it was last night, but apparently not. This comes out on Twitter, TMZ. Clips have researched comedian Shane Gillis' racial and ethnic ethnic slurs resurface before hosting Saturday Night Live.
Are they trying to drag it back up?
By you. You caused them to resurface by making this fucking post on Twitter.
Some reports say.
It's fucking funny, too. Let's see, this isn't it, but I listened to it, I was like, oh my God, he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he is.
Guy is fantastic. So,
dude, you've this is a nice little Sunday.
Good. I was in a good mood coming over here. This is gonna be good.
I gotta watch the Super Bowls, and I'm gonna be going into it with a good mood. You actually, dude, Turtle, you brought me around because you're like, I think things are getting better. I was like, I don't know.
I'm not done.
Okay, the way you laid it out, dude, like,
okay,
I'm pretty impressed.
Thank you.
Yes.
During the Super Bowl, you're probably going to see a Bud Light commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that for a fact. I'm just guessing, right? Because Bud Light is trying really hard to revive their brand, but I believe Bud Light was ruined forever.
I think you're right for two reasons. Well, for one reason with two sub-reasons is that they decided to go woke and target the gay trans community.
I think they were targeting women.
Was it women?
Well, they were using gay trans community to target women.
Okay, that's kind of my point, though.
Because you don't target the trans community.
How many women do you know that drink Bud Light?
No, it's, yeah.
How many gay trans people do you know that drink Bud Light? Like, they don't drink that anyway.
Right.
It's like a redneck. And the reason why, they're like, oh, it's just like some redneck drink. And you alienated your stereotypical customer base.
Yeah.
Now you're kind of fucked. You're in this weird purgatory because, like, well, now you don't have them and you don't have these people either. You never did.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation one time with a friend of mine who it turns out he's gay, but he wasn't at the time, right? We didn't know he was at the time. And in hindsight, I'm thinking this conversation probably didn't go over
sure how that works.
Well, I remember at the time having this conversation with him before I guess I knew before he was out, and we were talking about like how it's cool to be black, and it always, our whole lives it was always cool to be black. Like which is so like anti-racist, like you can't even begin to like define that.
Yeah.
Our hometown did not have a lot of black folks living there. So when a black kid came to town, and it was, it's a redneck town.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, we lynched him and burned a cross in front of his house. No, just kidding. Sorry.
I'm not sure. I didn't know you were going there.
No, every time there was a black kid at school in Ferndale, they were like instantly the coolest kid in the school.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to work at it.
Yeah.
They were just deemed the coolest, And I was having this conversation with my friend, and he was like, yeah, I think that gay is going to be the new, like, black. Like, it was kind of starting to seem that way. Like, gay things were being more and more well accepted, and that was true. But he told me that, and I was like, I don't think so.
That sounds pretty gay to me.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I can't even go there. It's just so like to most straight guys, and I hope this doesn't come across as bigoted. It's not, but to most straight guys, the thought of sucking another man's dick is probably the most like repulsive thing that you could possibly think of. Right? That is never going to be cool.
At our pre-show meeting, when I thought about, hey, we need to have like strong endings on these episodes. Man, you sure were listening pants on that time.
There is no way to make that cool. I'm sorry. And what Bud Light did was they ruined their brand in a way that's not ever going to be salvageable. You're always going to say, even though it wasn't about gay, it was about trans stuff, which, sure, there's some sort of difference between gay and trans. But to most, like, people that drink Bud Light, I mean, not really.
Yeah.
There's not really that big of a difference. And they don't want to be associated with that because it's the most repulsive thing that they can think of. And that doesn't mean that they hate those people. Yeah. They can't put themselves in that person's shoes. Right. And so anytime someone offers them a Bud Light, it's going to be an insult. And I just don't think there's any coming back from that.
Yeah.
instead of ending there, I'm going to try to take the piss out of... Since it's a Super Bowl later today, I was in the grocery store, and I saw everyone around town. Have you left your house today?
I did. I went to the store.
Were there a bunch of 49er jerseys?
No, I saw one Raiders jersey, but...
Right. We talked about that. Well, at church today, full of 49er jerseys. Everywhere you go, and I went to Lucky's, 49er jerseys everywhere, and I saw this lady wearing a Colin Kaepernick jersey. And I was like...
Is he playing today?
Not today or ever again. And the Colin Kaepernick thing is a perfect example of this title shift that I'm talking about. You can't pick a lamer jersey than Colin Kaepernick jersey. You will not get... I mean, for a 49ers fan to wear a Kaepernick jersey...
Wait. I missed the description. A well-to-do suburbanite white woman.
No.
Damn it.
No. Sorry. A white woman. Lower to middle class.
Pajama bottoms. Buying scratchers.
Just an older lady that, she honestly didn't... she was out of touch. That's how you know this was not a...
okay.
And it was Lucky's. Like, we don't have well-to-do suburban women shopping there in the first place. If you see a hot chick shopping at Lucky's, there's also like 4 guys like walking behind her with their shopping carts. Like, holy shit!
Just like straight vulture mode, dude. I saw, like, not to derail you, but I stopped by a grocery store. I was like, on my way to work. It was the morning, right? So it's like 7:30 in the morning. I think I was grabbing some coffee and something to eat for lunch. And in front of me in line was this like very, very, very attractive older woman. She had to be like late 50s maybe, and like fully done up.
Yeah,
highlighted hair. Obviously had work done to her face, her breasts, like rockin' body. Buying 10 Monster Energy drinks. And I was like I looked at, because the first thing I saw was like what was on the conveyor belt. I'm like, holy shit. And I was like looking up to expect to see like a painter or a drywall or something. Right. I'm like, look at this woman, and she's had like full bling, like diamonds, like chains, like not like Run DMC bling, but like a really, really wealthy older woman.
Yeah.
And I was just like staring at her. I was just like, man, I so want to like start a conversation with her. I was like, so what's up with the Monster Energy drinks here? You know what I mean?
Oh, you should have.
So she gets it, and I was I don't know. I love people watching. I'm trying to kind of figure out what people are, who they are. I go outside. I get in my truck, and I look over, and she was just pulling out of the parking lot, and
Linda's drywall.
Full fucking Chevy Silverado jacked up.
Yeah.
Like 12-inch lift, like 38-inch tires, like with custom rims, like a full like brodozer.
Wow.
And just like peels out of the parking lot. I was just like, I wanted to follow her. I was like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, she was clearly in the trades. That's amazing. So
I immediately called my wife. Like, I got to share this with someone.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
All right. So I'm looking at this Kaepernick jersey, and I'm thinking this is the exact same thing that as the Bud Light. Like, he was so celebrated for what he did. He started kneeling, and then fucking Megan Rapinoe started kneeling, and everyone's kneeling, and it's this thing, and he was like the man, right?
Yeah.
Well, it turned him into like this, like the worst name. You could have a fucking Ray Rice jersey, Baltimore Ravens, the guy that punched his chick in the elevator. Yeah, and get less,
which no one cared about until the video came out, and then all of a sudden it was a huge deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was fucking.
Who's the
horrible.
other guy? Who's the other guy? There's someone worse than Ray Rice. There's the guy that actually killed some people.
Oh, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Isn't he Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah,
yeah.
fucking
Jesus, Ravens, you guys.
I know.
Tighten up the hiring practices here.
Ray, I almost said Ray Epps. There's too many Rays in our.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyways, you he ruined. There is no worse jersey than his. I'm sorry. It's just, if you want to get like ridiculed, even if you're a 49er fan, and you wear a Kaepernick jersey to the Super Bowl party today, you are going to be ridiculed and made fun of, and it's just going to be the most uncool thing ever. So this goal that we started out with Liberty Tree, to make our way of thinking cool, and how much effect we had on that, I don't know. Probably very, very little, but I would like to think that we contributed, at least.
Yeah.
It seems to me, as the surfer out there in the waves that is actually kind of telling what's going on with the tide and with the waves, it seems to me like it's happening. Like the shit that we observe and make fun of and know is right and know is wrong is starting to shift, thanks to, in large part, guys like Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan and this like kind of alternative media. And it is starting to become the new kind of the new norm, and this new like cool space. And so go to libertytreelifestyle.com and get yourself one of our fucking shirts.